Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is that better? Yes. On behalf of our family, I'd like to welcome each of you here to this celebration. Yes, I said celebration because it's a celebration of a long life well lived. Mother is thrilled that each of you are here, gathered together on this land that she loves so much. So let the celebration begin.
Hello. My name is Hank Close, and Bags asked me to sing this song. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness, praise for the morning, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's our bright. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the world. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Casey. We are Miss Close's grandchildren from Washington State, where she took pack trips for many decades. And our grandmother wished for us to share these words by Chief Seattle, which have inspired the modern environmental justice movement to be shared today in celebration of her life.
I'm Eli Hastings. I'm a slightly older model of her many grandchildren. I believe our grandmother would want us to acknowledge and recognize today as we gather to celebrate her that we do so on Catawba land. Prayer to the Four Directions by Chief Seattle. Great Spirit of light, come to me out of the east with the power of the rising sun. Let there be light in my words. Let there be light on my path that I walk. Let me remember always that you give the gift of a new day. And never let me be burdened with sorrow by not starting over again.
Great Spirit of love, come to me with the power of the north. Make me courageous when the cold wind falls upon me. Give me strength and endurance for everything that is harsh, everything that hurts, everything that makes me squint. Let me move through life ready to take what comes from the north.
Great life-giving Spirit, I face the west, the direction of sundown. Make me courageous when the cold winds fall upon me. Give me strength and endurance for everything that is harsh, everything that hurts. Sorry. I face the west, the direction of sundown. Let me remember every day that the moment will come when my sun will go down. Never let me forget that I must fade into you. Give me a beautiful color. Give me a great sky for setting, so that when it is my time to meet you, I can come with glory.
Great Spirit of creation, send me the warm and soothing winds from the south. Comfort me and caress me when I am tired and cold. Unfold me like the gentle breezes that unfold the leaves on the trees. As you give to all the earth your warm, moving wind, give to me so that I may grow close to you in warmth. Man did not create the web of life. He is but a strand in it. Whatever man does to the web, he does to himself. Thank you.
I now invite everyone to join in singing "This Is My Father's House." All the hymns, including the one Hank played and the rest of these, were chosen by my mother over the last few years. Mother and I spent many hours over the last 10 or 15 years discussing what she wanted to happen here today. And I am somewhat constrained in what we do here by her wishes. I'm entirely constrained, as a matter of fact. I know there are many of you out there, I can see many of the faces who wish you could be up here talking about my mother. But my mother had one fear about this event, and that it was that it might go on too long. She'd been to one too many long funerals, and this isn't a funeral for that reason, and it's not going to go on too long. And that's why we can't have everyone who would like to talk about her come up. I apologize for that. But we're going to honor her wishes and only have 3 speakers. My mother had a major impact on many of us. She certainly had such an impact on me. The older I got, the more I realized that. That doesn't mean that we didn't disagree. Of course we did. However, I found that as the years passed, my views on things much more resembled hers than vice versa. I long ago decided that it was okay to brag about my mom, and I did it shamelessly and continually. Mother had strong likes and dislikes, either despite or because of her upbringing amidst wealth and privilege. She viscerally disliked the pretentious, the privileged, the posh, and snobbery in any form. This was mostly an admirable trait, but occasionally she would so intimidate some poor travel agent that we would end up staying in some dump somewhere because the travel agent was afraid of making Mother mad. Despite her strong feelings on many things, I do believe, however, that Mother will be remembered most for what she loved. She loved her kids and was fiercely loyal to each of us, even when we did not in any way deserve it. I know we can all think of times when she defended a sibling who at the time didn't seem to deserve defending, as well as a time when she defended or supported us when we really didn't deserve it at all. That loyalty and love carried on to embrace her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She wasn't always good at expressing her love, but to use a very tired cliche, her actions spoke louder than her words. Her love of nature, of the natural world, epitomized in her love of this greenway that bears her name, was lifelong. Under the influence of Miss Tony, or Toto as we called her, my mother became a true outdoors person very early on. Walking in the woods that surround her house and the trails of the Greenway was a cherished activity for her on a daily basis for over 90 years. Late in her life, when her eyesight failed, she would still not give up this habit. It was only after a number of very painful falls that she agreed to limit that activity to times when someone could accompany her. She was a devoted friend to many of you here. You camped with her, you walked with her, you biked with her around the world, and some of you even went to truly unpleasant places. Mali, Yemen, Ethiopia come to mind. You went there with her because she had never been there and just had to go. My sister Francie was her most frequent traveling companion, especially to places like that no one else would go. My mother was a fan of what I call terror tourism, and she did not pass it on to me. She was very stoic and resilient, and this became much more evident as she aged. You never heard her complain, for example, about the arthritis that ravaged and ruined her hands for over 30 years. Her increasing blindness was treated as a challenge and not a curse. She never said, "Why me?" She just charged ahead and made the most of each day. I would pray that I could face adversity with equal grace were I to face what she did, but I know I couldn't. Of all the gifts my mother gave us by her example, the one I think of most often was her ability to pay no attention to the calendar. She never woke up one morning and said, "Oh my God, I'm 70. I can't keep exercising like this." Or, "Oh my God, I'm 80 or 85. I can't travel like this." No. She just kept with her program and ignored her age. She knew of no other way to live, and what a lesson that is for all of us. Finally, my mother was not Orthodox. She didn't wear her religion on her sleeve, but she was devoted to her parish church, St. Paul's. And that is where you could find her every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock when she was in Fort Mill. Yes, the woman who Jim Baker, I hope you all remember who Jim Baker was, once called a devil woman for buying some land that he wanted to buy, was a faithful communicant in her church. And she wanted that to be known because, of course, she would never say so. May Ann Springs Close, Mother, Ann, Sis, Bags, etc., rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I'm Daler, and this is Ms. Close's second oldest great-grandchild. The rest of them are all down there. And I'm going to read another selection that she chose, which is a poem by Henry Scott Holland. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you. And the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by the old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well, nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again.
I am Christopher Buckley, an in-law in the clan of the Devil Woman. I'm going to try to get through this without losing it. It would help if you would kindly make funny faces at me. The tomb of Sir Christopher Wren, the great architect who built St. Paul's Cathedral in London, bears the inscription, "If you seek his epitaph, look around you." If today you seek Ann Springs Close's epitaph, look around. You're on it. One day as we were driving past one of the Ann Springs Close Greenway signs, she said, "People think I married Mr. Greenway." She wasn't one to put on airs. That was clear from the name that she went by, Bags. In my lifetime, I have known a few great ladies, grandes dames, we call them up north. And only one of them ever told me to call her Bags. I've known a few titled people, too. But Anne Springs Close was the most natural aristocrat I ever met. And she wore her nobility as lightly as a Greenway t-shirt. Now, was she entirely without vanity? One piece of evidence might suggest otherwise. A little wooden sculpture she kept next to her daybed, a gift from a group of nuns in Haiti she supported. It says, Bags, la reine. That's French for Queen Bags. As magnificent as this Greenway is, for me, her real legacy is the love she engendered in the thousands of people whose lives she touched and changed. Principally among this teeming multitude, her 8 children. Now, I will admit to bias here, for I married one of them. In consequence, I gained 7 sisters and brothers-in-law. For an only child like myself, this has been a vertiginous experience. As Dorothy might say, I don't think we're in Connecticut anymore, Toto. But it gave me a front row seat in Bags' world, and I wouldn't have missed it for all the teen China. The last lyric of the last song the Beatles ever recorded goes, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Bags made a whole lot of love and got it back with interest. Her last 10 years were not easy, but she never complained. And by God, she maintained her sense of humor and irony right up to the end. After being fatally wounded on Monday by that blankety-blank pecan tree, she remarked in the emergency room, I saved one too many trees. In her 50s, macular degeneration began to take away her eyesight. By her 80s, she was legally blind. This was a tremendous loss for a woman who cherished literature and the view, among others, from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, which she managed to climb 3 times in her 80s. In her final years, there were numerous diagnoses of potentially fatal illnesses that would have defeated less hardy souls. Not hers. Her children were her mainstays, her first, second, and third responders. How many times over the last decade the phone would ring, sometimes in the middle of the night, and my physician wife, Katie, would pick up, and I'd hear her say, I'm on my way. Bag's sons, Derek and Elle, were always nearby to keep her spirits up and to make sure she was well fed with tasty meals from their restaurants. Of course, I would never stoop to product placement in a eulogy. Bags would be horrified if someone used her memorial service for crass commercial purposes. So I'll just mention briefly that if you were looking for a refreshment or some fine dining after our gathering today, I highly recommend Elle's restaurant, The Pump House, or more recently, Napa, or Derek's new Taco Molina, where the food will have you shouting, "Ole." Tell them I sent you, and they'll give you 20% off. And validate your parking stub. That sound you just heard was either another pecan tree coming down or Elle and Derek having heart attacks. Bags's beautiful eldest daughter, Crandall, was also never far. You'll be hearing from Crandall's husband, Erskine, shortly. He will give you a fine eulogy, I have every confidence, but I want to point out for the record that I was Bags's favorite son-in-law. Erskine may tell you that he was, but you all know better than to believe a former White House chief of staff. Bags and her son Buck who conducted her lovely funeral service yesterday at St. Paul's Episcopal, made many trips together to Haiti to visit those nuns for whom Bags was la reine. Her devoted daughter, Gracie, would swoop in from faraway Washington State to be with her. Indeed, Gracie was with her on Monday, sitting on the bench in the back of the big house when suddenly the whole world came crashing down. Bags's beloved son, Wilbur, as we affectionately call him, was never farther than a stone's throw. Whenever things got really rough, he'd move in and sleep in the room next to his mama's. The love these two had for each other made your heart glow. It was never a competition among the children. They all knew that they were Bags's favorite child, or grandchild, or great-grandchild. If you asked Bags who was, her answer was always, whichever one I'm with at the moment. What a politician she'd have made. But from where I sat, it was her daughter Francie who loved her best, who hugged her tightest. Francie was always there for her. Francie, I can only imagine what a crater this has left in your heart, but your heart is as big as the Ritz, and now we're going to need it more than ever. Bags had 28 grandchildren. But I'm just going to give 2 shout-outs. The first to her grandson, Daler, who was number 1 on Bags's speed dial and who visited her every day. And secondly, a shout-out to my stepdaughter, Kingsley, who moved back to Fort Mill in order to be with her grandmother. Bless you, Cake. So if you seek Anne Springs Close's epitaph, it's written in the DNA she left behind. Now, I know it's hot. You're all thinking, how long is this Yankee going to yap? Bear with me just a moment longer, because there are some folks who need thanking for the love they gave Bags. I'm talking about Bags's oldest friend, Sylvia Baker, constantly at her side, taking her on walks, swimming, keeping her entertained. Bless you, Sylvia. I'm talking about you, Kenny Walker, her devoted longtime companion. Always there with her, listening to endless audiobooks, bringing her flowers, driving her everywhere. Bless you, Kenny. And there was Pearl. Where are you, Pearl? Dear Pearl, Bags's own personal Starbucks barista, always there with coffee and the latest hot gossip. Bless you, Pearl. Bags went on making new friends right up to the end, mostly doctors. Eye doctors, heart doctors, bone doctors, skin doctors, mouth doctors, every imaginable variety of the Hippocratic persuasion. By the end, she'd been tended to by half the American Medical Association. It would take too long to thank them all, but I must mention Dr. Nelson Eddy, who attended Bags 5 days a week for the last year and a half. Thank you, Dr. Eddy. By the way, the family wanted me to ask you, that was all covered by the insurance, right? Okay, good. I often wondered amidst these physical ordeals, what kept Bags going? Maybe it was that she was always setting goals for herself. She made it a goal that she was going to live to be there for the birth of her first grandchild. That was 28 grandchildren ago. Check. Then she was going to live long enough to see all her children reach age 60. Check. Then she was going to live until all her children had children. Check. Then she was going to live until all her grandchildren had children. She didn't quite meet that goal, but she did live to see the birth of Bess and Hill's baby, William Hill Dubose, who arrived on June 12th. She was looking forward to the birth of Kingsley and Fletcher's little girl in January. She didn't make it to that goal, but she was serene, even blithe about death. It held no terrors for her. It's unlikely she expected it to come in the form of that tree, soon to be repurposed as a million toothpicks. But she knew, as John Lennon wrote a few days before his world came to an end, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. I came late to the party, but I know what it was like to love Bags, and I know what it will be like to miss her. Thank you, Queen Bags. Thank you, Mrs. Greenway.
Note to self, never follow Christopher Buckley. Now Psalm 104, Bag's favorite psalm, written and read by her favorite son, in a black suit she asked me to wear, which was not a good idea. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Yonder is the great and wide sea, with its living things, too many to number, creatures both small and great. There move the ships, and there is Leviathan, which you have made for the sport of it. All of them look to you to give them their food in due season. You give it to them, they gather it. You open your hand, and they are filled with good things. You hide your face, and they are terrified. You take away their breath, and they die and return to their dust. You send forth your spirit, and they are created, and so you renew the face of the earth. May the glory of the Lord endure forever. May the Lord rejoice in his works. He looks at the earth, and it trembles. He touches the mountains, and they smoke. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will praise my God while I have my being. May these words of mine please him. I will rejoice in the Lord. Let sinners be consumed out of the earth, and the wicked be no more. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Hallelujah.
This next hymn is one of Mother's selections. She originally wanted Elle to sing it as
You know, I've been in this damn family for 50 years. And I really thought my mother-in-law loved me. But she knew I was a crybaby. And she put me up after singing How Great Thou Art. And after Christo made that great talk, I told her I would do my best. Because she was. Ann Close, our Ann Close, was a force of nature, a truly remarkable woman, full of love and life and giving, remarkably strong, actually tough, but kind to the core. That was our Bags, our Ann Close. She may have been born with a silver spoon in her mouth, but by God, she spit it out as quick as she could. Our Bags was just plain good, deep down good. And if you were blessed to be her friend, no matter who you were, what station in life you came from, rich or poor, young or old, black, brown, or white, you couldn't have a better friend. Just ask Kenny, or Sylvia, or Daniel, or the person sitting on your right or left. There was no better about her. If she was your friend, she was there for you all the way, through thick and thin. And man, was she tough. You don't have 8 kids, climb Mount Kilimanjaro at 85, swim 6,000 miles after you are 85 and legally blind, or chase a bear out of a cabin filled with your grandkids at the top of Mount LeConte when you're almost 90, using nothing more than a broomstick. You can't do that if you ain't tough. And during the last few years of her life, when she lost her independence that she had worked so hard to obtain, she struggled asking for help. But this tough woman once again adapted. And before long, she would say to anyone offering to help, "Oh, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. It would be wonderful to do that with you." And Lord knows this woman was always giving, sometimes in big ways, enormous ways, like this extraordinarily beautiful greenway. 2,400 acres. Can you imagine? She gave it away. And who did she give it to? She gave it to all of us. All of us. And she gave it to us forever. And she also gave of herself in so many smaller ways, ways that no one ever heard about. I remember walking up to the stables with her one day, and there were a bunch of kids from disadvantaged homes that she was teaching them how to ride. And I remember seeing her leave a few bucks in her mailbox for someone here, we're here today, who had called her and told her they had an unforeseen problem. For you see, our Bags, she truly cared. She cared about people. She cared about all people, and she cared about them deeply, especially the folks who live right here in York and Lancaster and Chester counties. And Lord, was she full of love. Love she often had a hard time expressing. But love you could feel, love you could sense, and love you could see. Love she exhibited in so very, very many ways. Her family was everything to her. And she loved each and every one of her 8 kids, 28 grandkids, and 23 great-grandkids. and I guess I should say 3 great grandkids. And she loved them all. She loved them all unconditionally. Heck, she even loved her son-in-laws, even when they were no longer son-in-laws. She taught us all the importance of family, of loving each other, supporting each other, and being there for one another. And there was no place in the world, as Buck said, this grandma wouldn't go. The more adventurous and dangerous, the better she liked it. Always taking 5 or 6 of her kids or grandkids or great-grandkids in tow. And she passed along this love of adventure, travel, and lifelong learning to all her kids and grandkids, whether they liked it or not. Sam. But there was one thing each of these kids understood as they traveled the globe with Bags, and that was as much as she loved traveling around the world with this multitude of kids at her side, flying coach, man, she was never going to get up there in first class no matter how hard you tried to get her to move. Flying coach and staying at the most inexpensive place she could find. Fort Mill was home, and home was where her heart was. And just being around this remarkable woman was an adventure in its own right. You didn't have to go to some faraway land to have an adventure with Bags. One of our kids came home after spending the night with Bags one night, and he told his mom and me, "You won't believe this, but last night, Bags found a snake in her bed." It was actually our bed. And I said, "Wow, what did she do?" He said she picked it up by the tail and threw it out the door. And I said, "Well, what did she do then?" He said she cut off the light and went right back to bed. Just another adventure with Bags. Now, as much as we all love Bags, her kids told me, don't paint her as perfect. She wouldn't want that. So I'll give you 2 examples of the imperfect Bags. First, it's obvious today she had a blind spot for the boys in her family. Here was this ardent feminist who demonstrated and marched in parades for women's rights well into her 90s. But who did she pick to give her eulogy? 3 old white guys, well past their prime. When sitting right there in front of you are 4 grown daughters and 11 grown granddaughters who are all, every blessed one of them, as smart and successful as anyone else in this world. I guess this was just a generational thing, but Christo, Buck, and I are sure proud she picked us. And secondly, and this won't come as a surprise to anyone here who has ever been in that little house she lived in. You know what I'm talking about, Mary. Our imperfect Bags lived in this house since Crandall was born. And my bet is that house hasn't been cleaned out since Crandall was born. And that was almost 74 years ago. I'm telling you, the stories I could tell of what we have found in that kitchen of hers are legendary. I'll never forget when our daughter Annie was 2 years old and she was crawling around the floor in that kitchen. And lo and behold, I looked down at her and she was this close to eating a big blood tick she had found on that floor. Man, that's as good as it gets. And more recently, one of Bag's great-granddaughters found a cockroach in her glass of water. It got so that every parent examined the buckle-up cookies that Bags had lovingly made and given their kids to eat when they were departing her house after a long day of fun. I can't even begin to describe to you, because I know I've already grossed you out, what we found in those cookies. No, I think it's fair to say housekeeping was not this grandma's forte. But man, she could take a joke and make one. Gracie's son, David, recently looked at Bags and asked her if she had been in a fight. When he didn't get an immediate answer, he turned to his mom and said, "Bag's eye looks like a meatball." Bags just roared. She laughed and laughed and laughed. And as Krista alluded to, when she was lying there in her hospital bed just 3 days ago, with broken bones and her skin ripped off from that darn falling tree, did she complain? Nope. All she said was, it looks like I saved one too many of these darn trees. And then she laughed and laughed. So finally, let me conclude by saying something personal about this woman who meant so much to me. All of us will miss this force of nature, this remarkable woman who has done so much to make this world and our own little worlds a better place. This remarkable woman who took the time, set the example, and gave us the advice, each and every one of us, that made us all a better person for having known her. And while she is no longer physically here, she lives on in all our hearts and in the lives and in the families of these 8 kids of hers: Crandall, Francie, Buck, Gracie, Elle, Will, Derek, and Katie. Her values are now their values. And as such, she departed this world satisfied of a life well led, knowing that each of them will carry on her legacy, a legacy of family, love, life, living life to the fullest, and giving back. That's our Bags. That's our and close.
We're going to close this celebration with a hymn that Mother picked, as she picked all of these. You've got the music there. It's All Things Bright and Beautiful, and let's sing it loud and think of Bags as we do. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.